Right. Well, let me say welcome to everybody. There's people logging in from all over the world, as you can see in the messages. Welcome to Stoicon 2021. This is the world's largest gathering of Stoics, people interested in Stoicism, people practicing Stoicism, people learning about it. There's all sorts of cool stuff lined up, and people are tuning in from everywhere. It's morning here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's already noon in parts of Brazil. It's the afternoon in Europe and Africa. It's getting into the evening as we go further east. And for our various participants in the Pacific who are logging in, I have to admit, I don't know what time it is exactly, other than it's probably quite late, and we're very happy to have you here with us. So I'm the MC for Stoicon. I'm Greg Sadler, the editor of Stoicism Today. You see a few other people here who I'll be introducing shortly, but before that, I want to talk a bit about what Stoicon is. So this is an annual conference. We call it the big event, and it's been going on for nearly 10 years now. It's put on by the Modern Stoicism organization. In the past, we have had Stoicons in London a number of times, New York, Toronto, Athens, and then last year, due to the COVID epidemic, we had to go online, and we discovered, as we're going to talk about, that was in some respects, an adjustment, but it was also rather a boon because we had the biggest Stoicon ever with the most participation. And it opened our eyes to some of the possibilities of what we could do with this conference and the format. So a lot more people participated. We're continuing on with that tradition for the immediate future and probably going quite a ways into the future. Stoicon is going to be an online event like the one that you're here with today. And we are very fortunate to have with us a number of people who have made major contributions to understanding and applications of Stoicism, not just in the last decade where the growth in interest in Stoicism has been incredibly visible. But these are some of the people who, you could say, laid the foundations, laid the groundwork for what we have going on today. One of them is our keynote speaker, Nancy Sherman, who we'll be talking about later on. But I would like to mention, I encountered her work well over a decade ago, first in the context of Aristotle, and then in the context of Stoicism in the military. We have also John Sellers and Donald Robertson, Sharon LaBelle. These are all people who have been making major contributions for a long time. And we have somebody else who I'm going to introduce you to very happily in just a moment, Chris Gill. So Chris is a founding member of Modern Stoicism. And when I asked him to summarize, he said, well, I'm involved in many of its activities. And that's a bit of an understatement. Chris has been absolutely central in this entire Modern Stoicism movement and organization. Both in academic ways. He's the author of several books and many articles, including Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, books 1 to 6, translated with an introduction and commentary. One of his other works that I'm particularly fond of is The Structured Self in Hellenistic and Roman Thought. He has done decades of work and made lots of contributions to our understanding, not only of Stoicism, but of ancient philosophy much more broadly. He's also just completed a book on Stoic ethics that I've had the privilege to pick his brain about in the past. It sounds really incredible. And a book on Stoic ethics and its significance for modern ethical theory. So not just looking at it in the past, but trying to make it fit the present. I wanted to bring Chris in to talk a little bit about modern Stoicism, the movement, Stoicon itself, since he's been here at the founding. And so I'm going to turn it over with no further ado to Chris.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for that introduction, Greg. So I'm joining Greg and Andy in welcoming everyone who's tuning in to the Stoicon today. And as Greg said, as a founding member of Modern Stoicism. 9 years ago, a small group of us met for a workshop in Exeter on putting Stoicism into practice. And this was the nucleus for what's become an organization devoted to this purpose. The original group, which is still to some extent the same group, included scholars like myself and John Sellers, who is now chair of the organization, Modern Stoicism, and psychotherapists like Donald Robertson and Tim LeBon, as well as writers of books on philosophical life guidance. Our original aim was very much to work together as a collaborative group, combining different kinds of expertise, approach, and experience, so that we could teach and learn from each other. And I think that's been very much realized in the work we've done. We wanted to present material that was true to the ideas and writings of ancient Stoicism, the philosophy developed in Greece and Rome between the 3rd century BCE and the 2nd century CE, and also to present this material in a way that would communicate the power of Stoic ideas for people today and help them to shape their lives in just the same way as Stoicism helped people to shape their lives during those centuries of the ancient world. We focused especially on 3 projects. The annual conference, now called the Stoicon, which Greg has spoken about. The annual online course, Stoic Week, which starts in October the 8th, that I hope many of you will take, which is a day-by-day introduction to Stoicism. And the blog, Stoicism Today, for posts and articles on putting Stoicism into practice that Greg does a wonderful job in editing. All these activities, and indeed modern Stoicism generally, have proved to have an appeal going far beyond our original expectations, which were very much more modest. And they have brought help and inspiration to thousands of people around the world. We hope very much that the event today forms a valuable part of your journey into Stoicism, whether it's the start of that journey or a step along the way. So thanks very much. And I'm looking forward myself very much to the day and hoping to learn a great deal from it. Okay, thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Chris. So I also want to turn this over to Andy to talk a little bit about one of our goals was to make this as affordable, as accessible, and as engaging as possible. And there's some really interesting stats that we have. So I'm going to turn this very quickly over to Andi Sciacca. I think we have to have her come off mute. While that's happening.
Thanks,
oh, there
Phil.
we go.
Thank you, Phil. So hello, everyone. My name is Andi Sciacca. I am also in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I am delighted to see all of the hellos in the chat. Someone did say it's 1 a.m. in Australia. So thank you for being here in the middle of your nights, afternoons, mornings, and evenings. One of our goals this year for Stoicon was really to focus on the opportunity to do just this, to connect with people all over the world, to talk about meaningful issues, and to do so in a way that has high engagement and a high level of thoughtfulness. So you'll notice that there's already a flurry of activity in the chat. We would like you to continue that. We want you speaking to one another, asking questions of our speakers and our panelists. As Greg said, he'll be monitoring the chat for questions during the Q&A. We also have a group of very friendly volunteers who will be monitoring the chat to see if there's issues or problems. But we really are hoping that you will continue to contribute to the conversation. One of the great benefits of doing a virtual event like this is that we can have meaningful dialogue throughout the day. And it's a packed day of really, I think, great conversations ahead of us. Just remember, though, that it can get a little cacophonous if we're all kind of contributing at the same time. So in terms of engagement, we just ask again that you're thoughtful and respectful in the comments that you post. Keep in mind that there are folks who are pulling questions from the chat for the Q&A. If you are watching on YouTube, welcome. You know, it's great to have everybody here. We have a high level of registration for this year. We have over 1,350 people who have signed up. I know we're going to have various numbers during the day on the Zoom and watching on YouTube, but we're just so happy to have you here. I'm going to talk a little bit later about some ways that you might make this a more meaningful experience for yourself. But we're just, again, very happy to have this opportunity to connect and to continue to, as Chris said, learn from one another. So with that, I'll turn it back to Greg and then share a little bit more with you in just a bit.
So I would like to recognize and thank all the people who make this event possible. First, the Modern Stoicism organization. Many of the people involved in this are members of the organization, including Andy and Chris and Phil and all of us. And we're doing this as volunteers. Nobody is making money on this, but your contributions are going to further the work of the organization, like Stoic Week and all these other great things. I'd like to thank all of our speakers in advance, our panelists, the speakers who sent in the lightning talks, and the discussion leaders for the workshop that Tim Laban is going to be leading later today. I'd also like to single out a few people. So Phil Yanov, our technical co-host, the executive producer of Tech After 5, and a member of our Modern Stoicism organization. He pulled down what is it in the Wizard of Oz, going behind the curtain, right? So there's Phil. He is the one keeping all of this infrastructure working. Andy, who you've just heard from, I'd like to thank her. She has done hours and hours and hours of invaluable work, all of the digital documents that you're seeing, all of the interview footage from earlier, and all sorts of other things behind the scene as well. Harald Kavli, our Lightning Talks organizer, who you'll see a little bit later on today. Travis Hume, who is going to be moderating our second panel of Ask the Experts, specifically about applications of Stoicism. And I'd like to thank all the people who've been posting and informing others about this in social media. By sharing it, you've helped us to have a much larger audience. So I'm going to talk very briefly about what to expect. You've all seen the schedule. We're going to start at 10:15 Eastern time, whatever time you're on, with Kai and Leonidas and their presentation. And we're going to hopefully go like clockwork through the entire thing. We may have a few delays here and there, but it's a very packed day. And so we're going to run through all of these things fairly quickly. So what's coming up? A lot of great talks, some panels where you'll have the opportunity to ask questions of our experts that have been assembled. We have a workshop lined up, which is going to have some breakout sessions, and Tim will tell you more about that when we get to that. And it all leads up to Professor Nancy Sherman's keynote address, which we're all looking forward to. And then after that, we'll have a sort of less rigorous after party and casual conversation. We have just 2 minutes before we actually get started with the next thing. So Phil has a few things to say about technical matters, and then Andy's going to talk about the workbook, and then we'll jump right into the first talk with Kai and Leonidas.
I probably only have 30 seconds because I think Andy has done a great job already of trying to tell you what we expect out of the day. But from a technical side point, we got a chat. Please use the chat. Be nice. She told you all the other stuff that I think you need to know. And, you know, we're trying to keep you on time. So we ask that from both the speakers and you as the audience. We appreciate you being here. If you've got questions for us, try to stick them inside the chat and we'll look for you. And with that, I think I pass it to Andy.
Thanks again, Phil. So I see a few questions about the schedule. And if you look in the chat now, you'll see that there is a link to workbooks. It's also available on the Eventbrite online event page. We've created 3 different guided workbooks for you. They're digital. You can download them from a Dropbox link. The first is the complete program. It's got all of the bios and space for notes. If you're operating on a digital system, we advise that you use that. It is 56 pages long, so it might not be best for printing. We also have a version of the program that's just the speaker information, and then another version that has just space for notes. You'll see there's lined paper, there's blank paper if you feel like doodling or drawing or sketching your ideas. But we wanted you to have a way to capture your experience for the day. Again, we'll try to post that link at the top of some of the sessions so that if you don't catch it this time, you can download it for yourself. But we're just really looking forward to a great day of good conversation and high engagement, and so happy to have everyone here. Thank you.